Okay. You should be getting from the registrar. Does this work? Can I use the microphone? I think there's two microphones. You should be getting from the registrar what do you call it? An exam number. This exam number will be different from your final exam number. Make sure you don't use it. They should be different numbers. Okay? If you don't hear from the registrar by Thursday morning, please tell me, okay? I know you will. Students never forget that stuff. I don't want to turn this thing on. Any questions? Anything in your mind? That's it? Ooh. I usually hate microphones. My voice is leaving me, so I'm going to try and use this. Okay. Any questions? Anything in your mind? Anything bothering you? I'll just double microphone. Okay. I look like a jerk, but it works. Okay. Yes, Megan.
Is there a difference between detail and remainder?
Yes, but I won't tell you why because we're not doing details. The answer is more complicated than it's worth, but there's a difference. Okay. Yeah, Kendra.
So if you're not going to tell us, does that mean we don't need to know detail?
I've never once tested on it in all my years of being a professor. Yeah, it's been abolished to the point where it's just utterly irrelevant that I don't feel like I need to test on it. What else? All right, let's start with this question. It's a little bit of review, but also it bridges to our topic for today. Okay. So the conveyance says from O to A for life. Okay. Which of the following are true? The transferee has a present interest in life estate. The transferor has a future interest in reversion. All of the above? None of the above. Okay. The problem is when you have this mic that coughs, it's awful. All right, another 10 seconds or so. All right. Who's next? Who's up? Oh, Hannah, there you are. Thank you. So, Hannah, before we get to the question, in this case, who is the transferee and who is the transferor?
So transferee is O and transferor is O, transferee is A.
So she says the transferor is O and the transferee is A. How do you know that?
Because O R, like a lessee is the person receiving, so E is the one getting it, O R is the one.
Okay, very good. Just remember the trick I told you, right? So when you're looking at these questions, especially for today, you need to be able to freely tell who's the transferor. In this case, it's O. And who's the transferee? In this case, it's A. Okay? Oops. The way I teach this to you, and which will help you remember, is that the transferee is the person receiving something. E, me, right? The transferor is the person giving something or transferring it. You'll see this in many different formats. Transferor, grantor, mortgagor, it's the same concept, right? So then, Cristiano, what's the answer here to this question?
C.
Okay, why is it C?
Because the transferee has a present interest in the life estate.
Very good.
The transferor has a future interest in the reversion.
Okay, very good. Look at that, 100%, 90%. Okay, a couple of you put A, but only a few people. So yeah, very good. That's right. Okay, the answer here is C. Good job. Build your confidence up before I knock it down. Mostly joking. But mostly. But the trick to these questions is you have to understand who the parties are. All right? So what I want to do next is fill in this table, or at least the first few rows that we did last week. And then I'll move on to the new topic for today, which is executory interests. Okay? All right, so I can't see any tag. What's that? Anthony, okay. Go ahead, Anthony. All right, so start out real simple. No, fee simple, right? What are the words, the magic words we use to convey the fee simple absolute?
Wouldn't be present and...
The magic words, I'm asking the final column, right? What are the words we use to convey fee simple absolute? These are the magic words. If I want to write a conveyance giving someone fee simple, what do I write? Come on, this is really basic.
Um,
Oh, do you have your notes from last class?
yes, I do have my notes from last class, Professor. Not really.
I'll come back to you, Chelsea. Okay, very good. When you see to A and his heirs, that means the conveyance of fee simple to A. Now, Anthony, back to you. What then is the duration of this estate?
Lasts forever.
Forever, very good. And who here has the future interest?
It's the same person, holds both present and future.
Well, let's be precise here. Who has a future interest?
The transferor, the first person? Oh, I mean A.
Does A have the future interest? Just be precise here, right? Who has it after A's death?
His heirs.
Okay, very good. Now, this is a bit of a confusing idea, right? Don't we say with future interest, with fee simple, the same person has both the present and the future interest. Here's the rub. A gets to decide who his heirs are. Oh, right? A gets to determine his heirs. Heirs are not calculated till death. So if A wants, his grandchildren to be his heirs, those are his heirs. If A wants a charity to be his heirs, that's his heirs. But A controls the present and future interest. We say here that A's heirs actually have a future interest. We don't know what those are yet, but A ascertains those people, determines them. Everyone with me? Okay? All right, so Elise, what if I have a state like this, right? It says from O to A for life, right? What is A's interest here?
The future interest?
Well, what is A's interest here? No, don't ask your friend. I'm here. This is not hard. What is A's interest here?
The life.
From O to A for life. A is a life estate. Very good. What is O's interest here? Very good. Okay. So we say that O's future interest here is reversion, right? But let's be precise, at least. Who has the reversion? It's not just O, but who has it?
O's heirs.
Very good, right? When you see from O to A for life, you can put this in parentheses if you want your notes. You don't have to. But you can. From O and his heirs to A for life. Because that reinforces the fact that after A dies, it goes back to O for O's heirs. Okay? And at least finish it up. O's heirs O's heirs have reversion in. How would I finish that sentence? What happens after A dies? What sort of estate do the heirs inherit? Very good, thank you. So say O's heirs have reversion and fee simple. I want you to start thinking in terms of making this entire sentence like this. I wasn't so strict last week, but I will start being more strict on this. Because you need to understand, when it comes back to O or O's heirs, it might not be in fee simple. You can actually reversion a life estate. It's completely possible. So be precise. In this case, it's O's heirs has reversion in a fee simple. Yeah.
O wouldn't have, why isn't it O and his heirs? Because O may be alive when A passes.
Right. the point I'm trying to convey here is that O gets to decide who his heirs are, right? But O has to be still alive. Okay? Now let's try this example. From O to A for life, and then to B's heirs. Okay? James, walk me through here, right? What is the present interest in this second equation? What's the present interest? Very good. A is a life estate. What's the future interest? No, it's not a part of V. What's B's interest here? What's the future interest here? What do you call B's interest here? What do you call, and why is it remainder, not reversion? And remainder? Very good. So we call this that B's heirs, right? B's heirs have remainder. Very good. All right? Yeah.
In that one, though, B doesn't have any interest, only
None.
theirs, right?
That's right. That's right. If I made it like this to B, I'll change it. And his heirs, right? Right? Then B would have the interest. All right? Have with me. Okay? And this one's life way. You should be able to fill this chart in your sleep by the end of this semester. Okay? Brandy, there you are. Okay, Brandy, I'm giving you a state like this. It says from O to A, so long as Blackacre is used as a school. What's my present interest here, Brandy? Say it again? Good here. Point here, I've never pointed there. Yeah, right. Who has a fee simple determinable?
Oh, A.
Very good. So we know that A has a fee simple determinable. How do we know that, Brandy?
Because it says so long.
Right, you have these durational words. That only tells us the future interest. That only tells us the present interest. What's the future interest here?
It is possibility of revert term.
Very good. Very good. You said it correctly. Okay? In almost every case, there are only a few exceptions I don't care about. The future interest paired with a fee simple determinable is a possibility reverter. For O in, Brandy, finish the sentence. A possibility reverter for O in. Okay, very good. Okay? Everyone with me so far. Now, it's a condition. It may happen or it may not happen. It may happen when O's alive. It may happen when O's heirs are alive. But someone will get it back if Blackacre is not used as a school. Okay? Everyone with me so far? Everyone with me so far? Okay. Let's do the next one, Mary. Let's try this one. Okay, it says from O to A, but if Blackacre is used for non-school purposes. Can you hear me okay? Is the mic projecting this? Okay, good. I can't hear myself, but it's good. O has a right of entry. All right, Mary, what do we got here?
A's present interest is a fee simple subject to condition subsequent.
Very good. And how do you know that A has a present interest, fee simple subject, condition subsequent?
Because but if and right of entry.
Okay. Now, I want you to focus on this very carefully. Fee simple, subject, condition subsequent. Walk with me here, right? From O to A, if I put a period there, from O to A would have a fee simple, right? But I don't put a period there, I put a comma. And after the comma, I put a condition. After the comma, I put a condition. What is that called? A condition subsequent, right? The name tells you what it is. It's a fee simple that's subject to a condition after the comma, right? So even if you forget but if, which you shouldn't, but if you do, you can reason it straight from there. And Mary said correctly that the future interest that follows a fee simple subject to condition subsequent is the, Mary said again? Future interest?
Is it a
What do you call it?
fee simple subject to condition?
No, what's the future interest called?
Oh, right to reentry.
And who has it?
A. No, O.
Very good. So we say that a right of entry for O in fee simple. Okay? Now, there's an important difference, though, between the possibly reverter and the right of entry. What is the most important difference between those two future interests? Very good. With a possibly reverter, it's automatic. That is, once the condition's violated, once the school is used for commercial purposes, it goes back automatically to O. But the right of entry is not automatic. In fact, the phrase right of entry means you have to exercise your right to enter. You have to go to court for it. I'm not concerned about what those steps are beyond the scope of this class, but you have to remember that they're automatic for the possibly reverter, and they're not automatic for the right of entry. Okay. Everyone with me so far? Again, this is nothing new. This is just summarizing from last class. Everyone with me? Okay. Questions on this? Okay. So this last row, which I deliberately left blank for you last week, we're going to fill in now. And this is the dreaded executor interest. And the reason why this gives students so much difficulty is it looks like a freak hybrid of these two. It's like a freak hybrid of the fee simple determinable and the fee simple subject to condition subsequent. It has very similar language. The biggest difference, right, and how you're going to know if you have a fee simple subject to an executory limitation, the future interest is in a third party. Okay? If you notice, both of these, the possibly reverter and the right of entry, who has the future interest? The grantor. Oh. You didn't notice it, but I'm pointing it out to you now. In all the cases we've done so far, the future interest is in O. However, with the fee simple subject to the executory interest, the future interest is in a third party, the transferee. So try something like this. From O to A and his heirs, but if A dies before B, then to B and his heirs. Okay? This is unlike anything we've done before. In every case where there's some sort of condition, it goes back to O. But this is new. Let's walk through this, right? It says from O to A and his heirs, comma. But if A dies before B, comma, then to B and his heirs. So again, if it just said from O to A and his heirs, period, right? If I put a period over here, what do we have? It's a fee simple, period. But we don't have that, we have a comma. And here's what students falter on every semester. Say, oh, Josh, but if. That means it's a fee simple subject to condition subsequent, right? But if, we just spent this entire week studying it. But if what? Where does it go? Okay? It doesn't say, but if it's used for a school, it goes back to O, or O is right of entry. It doesn't say that. Instead, it introduces a new person, B. Okay, introduces a new person, B. When the future interest, right, when the future interest goes to a transferee, a third party, it's not going to be a fee simple subject condition subsequent. It's not. This you have to just memorize. It'll drive you crazy, I promise, but you have to memorize it. The future interest goes to a third party. Future interest, we say that B has an executory interest in fee simple. We say that B has an executory interest in fee simple. What does executory interest mean? It's like to execute. It means to cut short. So in this case, B can cut short A's interest. How? If A dies first, B cuts out A's heirs. Let me say that again. If A dies first, B can then cut off A's heirs. Let's say that A lives, to be 120, and then B dies first. Right? A's heirs get it forever. A's heirs have it fee simple, no problem. But if B dies second, and A dies first, A's heirs are cut out. That's what executory means. It executes, it cuts out. So what ends up happening is B is floating around, waiting, saying, aha, A died, I'm still here. Mine. B can execute A's interest. So you say it's an executory interest in fee simple for Blackacre. Right? Yes, Rob?
There's also,
No. And the defining characteristic is it's automatic. Okay? There's not a requirement to enter. 1 second, interest. There's not a requirement to enter. So this is one of the reasons why law students go crazy with one. It looks like a fee simple subject condition subsequent, but it's not. And you know that with a fee simple subject condition subsequent, it's not automatic. For this one, it's automatic. So you almost have to flip your brain, right? When you see this language, but if, you can't stop there. You have to look who's getting third party. And if it's a third party going, it's executory interest. And if it's executory interest, it's an automatic condition. Once A dies first, cuts, executes, goes on to B in his heirs. Now, Andres?
Yeah, could you make it that instead of the when A dies, like none dies, but like he gets like this 90 for school purposes, it reverts to B and his heirs instead of going back to O?
I'm sorry, say one more time. What's your hypothetical?
It's basically from O to A and his heirs, but when A uses the Blackacre for non-school purposes, B has right to entry. Do that?
I don't. No. Don't, I would not say that. You'll confuse yourself. With a third party, it's not called right of entry. It's called an executory interest. And with executory interest, you don't need to enter because it's automatic. So I wouldn't start mixing the words from one to the next. Be very try to be very precise with your terminology because it's confusing enough as it is. You don't want to make it more confusing. Yeah, Brittany?
Can you, and this may be clarification, can you use the magic words or, do a,
Oh, I see what is that.
can you do it with the school?
Yeah, okay.
instead
Was
of
that what
the
you're getting at?
dies?
Oh, okay. So I'll try it like
kind
this.
of maybe word it differently.
Yeah,
regarding
here.
to the Blackacre.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, thank you for clarifying. It's like this, right? From O to A and its heirs, but if Blackacre used for non-school purposes, then to B and its heirs. Is that what you're getting, Andre?
Yes.
I did not answer any question, but thank you for the clarification. So this would be exactly the same. It would be exactly the same, right? And what's the difference between, I'll scroll if I can get both the screen at the same time, between this one and this one, right? Who has the third party interest? Is it O, right of entry, or is it B, some new third party? You need to pay attention where it's winding up, because depending where it winds up, that defines what kind of estate it is. In other words, before you can define the present interest, you have to figure out the future interest. It's almost backwards, right? Usually you start with the present and then you do future. Here it's reversed. You need to figure out the future interest first and then say, aha, it's an executory interest that matches up with the present interest, a fee simple subject to an executory limitation. Right? And not to throw more words at you, but you can also see it as called a fee simple subject to an executory interest. Interest. Right? It's also called a fee simple subject to an executory interest. Why? Because it's a fee simple subject to B's executory interest. Right? That's a limitation. It's a fee simple that's subject to B's executory interest. So with these estates, you have to go backwards. You first see, aha, B has an executory interest. He's cutting short A's estate. Then you go back and say, then that means A has a fee simple that's subject to B's executory interest. Everyone with me? Not intuitive, not easy. Is there a hand? I'm sorry. Who want to understand this? Yeah,
So
Kendra.
what do you put for the duration block?
Oh, I would say until A dies before B. I think that's the best way of saying it. Thank you for reminding me. Right, A gets to keep it unless he dies before B. Or to use the second example, right? Right, until Blackacre is used for non-school purposes. I think that's the right way of explaining it. Okay, but again, generally, so far we've done this forward, right? You look first at the present interest, and then you match up what the future interest is. Starting today, you sometimes need to walk backwards and start off with the future interest. And once you see that B is cutting short A's interest, it's got to be executory. And that means that the present interest is a fee simple subject to that executory interest. Yeah.
Are there any other little words we need to look out for other than then to establish that?
Right. So the question is, what words tell you this? Well, I can't spell. I wrote 10. Good job, Josh. Right. You have to go comma by comma. Right. They're not going to be magic words. But if you go towards the end, you say after all these things, and then goes to B. You ask, well, who the hell's B? Right. Is B the grantor or the grantee? No. He's some third party. Because it's a third party, he has to have an executory interest. And just be careful of what he's doing. B is cutting short A's interest. Actually, the interest of his heir. It's in the first one, but he's cutting short A's interest. And because he's cutting the interest short, it's got to be executory.
So if we see a conditional word followed by condition followed by the third party.
In almost every case, yes. There might be exceptions. That's pretty general. Yes, Kendra?
So B has the executory interest. If fee simple, what does A have?
A has a fee simple that's subject to B's executory interest. Right? Just think about that, right? A has a fee simple. And as long as it's used for school purposes, it keeps it forever. But if he transfers its purpose, that fee simple is still subject to executory interest from B, and it cuts it short and goes to B. Right? If you think of the executory interest as cutting short the present interest, it helps make it a little bit simpler. A has a fee simple that's subject to B's executory limitation or executory interest. Those words, interest, limitation, they're used interchangeably. You'll see them both ways. Questions? All right. So now I'm going to stop using this chart because it's going to stop making sense after today. It's a crutch. It got you about 2 weeks in, but I'm not coming back to it because after we do various remainders, it gets. I've tried. It doesn't work anymore. There's a chart in your book. You'll find at the end of the chapter. It confuses me, and I've been teaching this for a long time. But if it works for you, God bless. But it doesn't. I think it does more harm than good. But if it works for you, then it's at the very end of the chapter. Okay. So I will summarize this a little bit differently, though. We've now done several different interests. And I want to separate them based on whether it's an interest retained by the transferor or created in a transferee. These are all various types of future interests. In fact, I'll say here future interests, because just be precise. They're all future interests that either retained by the transferor or created in a transferee. So here we have reversion, possibility of reverter, and the right of entry. Now, what does this mean, retained by the transferor? Well, take this one, right? From O to A for life. O gave a life estate to A, but retained for himself a future interest, which you know is reversion. Reversion. I did it. Which we know is reversion. Okay? From O to A, so long as Blackacre used as a school, right? Again, O gave the fee simple determinable to A, but he retained for himself this possibility reverter, right? He's retaining it for himself. Same here, right? From O to A, but if Blackacre used for non-school purposes, O has right of entry. Same here. O gave a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent to A, but he retained for himself the future interest, which we call the right of entry. Everyone with me so far? Everyone get that? This should be fluent to you. You should be able to go back and forth, future, present. But O also can create a future interest in a third party as a transferee. Okay? So we know about remainders, right? From O to A for life, then to B and his heirs. Okay? O could have left the future interest himself, but instead he gave it to B and his heirs. And we know B has remainder. Okay? And then we did a new one today. Executor interest, right? From O to A for life. I'm sorry, I'll do it like this. From O to A, but if Blackacre used for non-school purposes, to B and his heirs. Everyone with me? Right? B's future interest is executor interest, so he cuts short A's interest. Again, O could have kept the future interest for himself, but he didn't. He gave it to O. O could have said, I'll keep a right of entry, but he didn't. He gave it to B. Everyone with me so far? Everyone with me? I'm about to throw something new at you, so if you don't get it, raise your hand. Okay. Because this can't be simple enough, we're going to be learning that there are different types of remainders. Okay? There are different types of remainders. There's the vested remainder. And there's the contingent remainder. Okay, there's a vested remainder and a contingent remainder. Okay. Who am I up to? Brooke, I think are you next? So Brooke, let's just look at this example, right? From O to A for life, then to B and their heirs. Is there any possibility in which B or his heirs will get nothing? Is there any conceivable way where B or his heirs gets nothing? in this case?
No,
Why is that the case?
A has to die.
Yeah. All men are mortal, right? Everyone dies. At some point, A will die. Maybe B's dead, it doesn't matter. B's heir is taken in fee simple, right? They have a remainder. Okay. But what if I gave you a different example? What if I gave you this example? Sam, I gave you this example. It's A for life. Then to B's children. That's the example. Is that a sure thing? From A for life and B's children? Is that a sure thing that B's children will get anything? What should you be asking yourself, Sam, when I wrote this equation on the board? Right? What's the most important question that you should be asking me at this point with this example? So, Sam, let me give you an example, right? You are a child of B. You're alive. And you see, aha, A, I'm waiting for you to die.
The answer is no.
Oh, no, that's not a yes or no question, right?
I'm fine.
So you're B's child,
Uh-huh.
and you're just waiting around for A to die. And then you get hit by a car. And your parents are dead, and you're an only child. Oh, what happens then? A dies after you.
Then
When A died, were there any kids left?
No.
Ah. So everyone sees the problem, right? Everyone sees the problem. So let me make this a little precise so you see what I'm getting at, right? From O to A for life, then to B's children. At the time of this conveyance, right, Sam's alive. So there's a child of B, no problem. But in my hypothetical I gave her, when A dies, she's already dead. There are no people, there are no children to satisfy it. So Sam, is it certain that B's children will take in this case? Okay, so here's where it gets screwy, Josh. How do we characterize Sam's remainder? Damn it. How do we characterize Sam's future interest? I do this all the time, I hate myself. Josh, how do we characterize Sam's future interest in this case? Okay, so it's a remainder for sure, right? How do we know this? It follows a life estate. And it goes to a third party. So it's a remainder, no doubt. But this is what we might call a contingent remainder. And I'll explain the rules of contingency in a minute. But the point I want you to convey is this is no sure thing. It's still a remainder, though, right? It's still a remainder. And this is why you have these different labels to describe it. In the first example, right, this example up here, it's vested, right? Right? There's no doubt in the world that B or his heirs will take it. But when you frame it like this, B's children, there is doubt that lingers. Because it depends whether Sam's alive or has siblings. I don't mean to keep saying you're dying. It's just you happen to fall on the lower, so I apologize. Okay? So there are two rules. There are two conditions to determine if remainder is vested. Okay, first, is it given to an ascertained person? And second, is not subject to a condition precedent. Now, whoa, wait, Josh, what are you trying to do, right? These aren't as hard as they sound to apply. What does an ascertained person mean, Joey? What does that mean, ascertained?
Somebody just specifically defined.
Yes. That means a person's named in almost every case, or defined, right? B's children is not defined. It said, to Sam. Well, Sam has heirs. And even if Sam's dead, her heirs can take. But when it says children, there's no one ascertained. When you see the word ascertained, put it in parentheses, named, right? Because in almost every case, or identified even better, right? If a person's specifically identified, right? B's firstborn child, that is a specific person. Only one person can be a firstborn child. But generally, it's going to name the person. A, B, C, whatever the name happens to be. Okay? And the second condition is a little bit trickier. So generally, the condition on which remainder takes hold is death. At A's death, B and his heirs get it. No problem there. Okay? The framing here is difficult because it's a negative. But to be vested, it can't be subject to condition precedent. Anyway, Josh, what's a condition precedent? The condition comes beforehand, right? The condition comes beforehand. What this means, what this generally means, is it's not, I'm sorry. I'll change that to double negatives. Okay. If it follows a natural death, that means it's not subject to condition precedent, right? If it follows a natural death, like here, from Ode for life, it follows a natural death, there's no condition precedent. But if there is a condition precedent, it becomes a contingent remainder. This is like two sides of the same coin. If either of these conditions are false, if the party is not ascertained, or if there is a condition precedent, it's contingent, right? I'll state it like this. If the party is not ascertained, or it is subject to a condition precedent, examples will make more sense, I promise. I know this is not sounding any sense right now. Okay? If the party is not ascertained, or if it's subject to condition precedent, that means it's got to be contingent. A remainder can't be both. It's got to be one or the other. And you need to ask yourself these two questions every time. Again, so far, when I gave you this, right? Piece of cake, right? From Ode for life into being his heir. You said, oh, Josh, easy, remainder. You need to do two extra steps now. Classify what kind of remainder you got. Right? Going forward, after today, if you just tell me remainder, you've done half your job. You need to go beyond that. And you need to classify it. Is remainder vested? Or is remainder contingent?
Can you scroll down to your example?
I'll give you lots of examples.
So in this scenario, we're saying Sam was one of Beef's children.
She died.
She died.
Tragically.
So that in the scenario, it's
Rest in
saying
peace.
She's dead.
She's dead. She's dead. But it says children. Right? Let me give you another example, right? Let's try a few questions. To A for life, then to B and his heirs. Okay, easy. We've done this 100 times before. Okay? So, Matt, let's just classify this one, right? Walk me through the analysis about whether this is a vested or contingent remainder. Just walk me through it. This is easy. Yes. Why is this a vested remainder? What are my two questions? Who's the person here? Okay, so first we say that B is ascertained. How do we know that, Matt? He's named. Very good. Okay, go on. How do you know it's not subject to condition precedent? Yes. It follows a natural death. In almost every case where a remainder follows a natural death, there's no condition precedent, right? And when I say it follows immediately, once A dies, it goes to B. There's no intervening period of gap. There's no gap period. Well, how this first?
So what's the difference between heirs and children?
Oh, what a good question. Does everyone die with children?
No.
Does everyone die with heirs? Yeah. So a person can die with heirs. Everyone has heirs. A person can die childless, right? So there's a huge difference.
But aren't you naming the children?
Do you see any names there? So for example, I'll use another example, right? From O to A for life, then to B's daughter Sam. Ah, how do we characterize that, Kendra?
That's ascertained.
And?
The second one not subject to condition. Oh, no, yes.
Is it vested or contingent remainder?
Vested.
It's vested, because as soon as A dies, it goes to Sam. Now what if Sam's dead? She has heirs, right? And because it's not written, but it's understood, Sam and her heirs, right? It's a vested remainder in fee simple. This would be a vested remainder in fee simple for Sam. Yeah. Oh, don't. We are only talking about future interests after life estate. If you notice, everyone I said from O day for life, day for life, day for life, right? I'm not putting conditions in here yet. Don't mess with me. Don't go there yet. Yeah, we'll get to those, but you don't want to get there. I'm sorry, Rachel, I skipped over you.
So for the follows natural death, so what exactly qualifies as
I'm going to give one of those in a minute or two. I'll give one of those in a minute or two, I promise. But everyone get these examples. Okay. Let's try this one. Let's try this. From O to A for life. But if B prepares a proper funeral to B and his heirs. This is getting what Shayna wanted, but I'll have to go there a little bit earlier, right? So, Jenica, let's walk through this one, right? So the present interest here. Okay, the present interest is life estate, right? Okay.
And then we have the contingent remainder
Okay. Why is this remainder contingent?
because he has to prepare all the funeral for A.
Okay, everyone see this, right? Well, let's walk through this. So we know that A has a life estate. That's easy. The future interest, right? The future interest after life estate is remainder, right? In B. But that is not enough. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of remainder is it? Is it vested or contingent? Now, Jenica, isn't B ascertained?
Yes.
So that's not the problem. Why does this not follow naturally after death? Why does this not follow naturally after the death?
He doesn't have to make him a proper funeral.
Okay, very good. A dies, right? A's dead. Until the funeral is held, B doesn't get anything. But if B holds the funeral, he gets it. This is what we call a condition precedent. Before precedent, right? Before B gets it, he's got to do something, make a funeral, right? So B has a condition precedent in this situation. Everyone see that, right? So we say B has a contingent remainder. Why? B is ascertained, but there is a condition precedent. Contingent, oh God. Contingent remainder. Rachel, does that get to your question? No, why not?
I'm asking what qualifies as a natural death, like if somebody shoots a...
Oh, no. I don't mean a natural death in that you die in your sleep. I mean that immediately after the death, it goes to the next person.
Okay.
There's no gap, right? That doesn't mean like, you die peacefully in your sleep, right? You can be murdered, run over by rodeo, whatever happens to be. I was my exam one year with someone got trampled at the rodeo. But natural, that's what it means. But this means there's a condition precedent, which is that he has to do the funeral beforehand. Does that make sense?
Natural death is just death in general.
I meant to say it follows naturally after death, not that the death itself is natural. Okay. Yeah, Lauren?
So for the contingent, I just want to be clear. For the vested, it's an and. You have to have both of those. And for contingent, you just can have either or.
Yeah, so this is like one of the things where to be vested, you gotta be perfect. You gotta hit both of them. If you miss one of them, you're contingent. The and and the or are somewhat complicated, but if it's either vested or remainder. If either of these conditions fails, it's contingent. Yes, something.
So, down to your example then, was that in executory estate?
No. It's not an executory interest, and I want to be very clear. Can B cut short A's interest here? I'm sorry? That's right. Be very careful. I like the way she put her question. This looks like a fee simple subject in executory interest, doesn't it? But it's not, because B can't cut short A's interest. A is going to live his life however he wants to live it. And when he dies, then B has the opportunity to cut it short, right? Let's go back to the example I used earlier with our chart, right? Use these examples. In both of these cases, Assumpta, B can cut short A's interest during his life, right? There's no life estate to starting off, right? There's no life estate.
Right.
With this latter example, there is a life estate, and the life estate cannot be cut short. That is the big difference. Matt, was your hand up?
Oh, I just was thinking the word but is the only reason.
That's right. The word but if. This is why you can't marry yourself to but if, because you'll screw yourself up. You have to look at who has present and future. If you just see but if and think fee simple subject, condition subsequent, or executory interest, or life estate, you're gonna be in trouble. So let me mess with you for a bit, right? Costa. Who owns Blackacre if B doesn't ever make the funeral? Let's say B says, screw it, I'm lazy, I don't want it. Who owns Blackacre? That's right. What do we call O's interest there?
At the end?
At the beginning. How would we describe O's interest? That's exactly right. It's a future interest following the life estate in the grantor, right? But you're gonna hate this. Its reversion subject to a contingent remainder. Oh, I knew you. I heard the groans, right? But everyone see what's going on here, right? 1 second. A dies, right? A dies. B's like, yeah, I'll make the funeral next month. Someone's got to own Blackacre for that month. And O holds on to it, right? Property always must be owned by someone. At any point in time, someone's got to own it. So O holds on to it. That's called his reversion. But it's subject to this contingent remainder. And then the remainder man says, I made this beautiful funeral, biggest funeral in the world, right? Proper. Goes to B and his heirs. So O's reversion can actually get cut short. This is, if you get this, you're in good position, right? It's a very strange item, but because there's a condition precedent, it doesn't follow naturally after the death. There's a gap. And during that gap, it goes back to O, at least temporarily. Maybe not. And if B's like, screw it, I don't want a funeral, O keeps it. And I mean, it's not unfair, because O made this transaction in the first place. And look, I'm giving it to A for life. And look, B, if you're a good guy, you make a funeral, you get to have it. And if you don't, it comes back to me.
Okay. You have to deal with the fact that B can execute O's or cut off O's interest.
Yeah, and I know what you're doing. You're saying it cuts it off. It's basically what it is. But it's not executor interest. It's a basic contingent remainder. Yeah, don't call it executory, but you're thinking of it the right way. Yeah, Marcos.
So, what if it said from O to A and is theirs for life, then if B prepares,
Oh,
you
good.
can go to
I'm sorry, I lost you. Say it one more time, please.
So instead of saying just from O to A for life, it said O to A and is theirs for life.
Wait, O to A and his heirs for life doesn't make any sense.
Oh, then forget it.
But it said from O to A and his heirs. That would be, well, let me try this one, right, Marcos? That'd be a lot like this, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The key for our topic on remainders is it starts off with a life estate, right? I'm glad Marcos phrased the question that way. You have to start off with a life estate. If you don't start with a life estate, you don't have remainder. Remainders, in almost every case, are going to follow life estates, right? This is, I think, Assumption's question 2 minutes ago, right? This starts off with a fee simple, comma, subject to executory limitation. In the later example, it's a life estate followed by remainder, vested or contingent. Yeah, and then Kendra, yeah, 1, 2.
So the way we have it with this contingent remainder, we have it if B doesn't follow their the condition, what is it called if it doesn't go back to O but goes to an even a fourth person?
Oh God.
I just asked about
I think I understood. Just say your question one more time. I want to make sure I understood your question properly.
In our example, we have Blackacre going. We have it's O to A for life, but if B prepares A proper funeral and B to his heirs, well, if B doesn't perform the proper funeral and we add a fourth person onto there, so it doesn't go back to O's heirs.
Okay. So what you're asking now is about having stacked remainders.
Okay.
They're called alternate contingent remainders. You can have 2 stacked. You'll do that next week. What you're asking is not beyond the bounds, but you can get there probably in a. I don't know if it's next class or the one after. I think it might be next class. Yeah, Kendra.
How do I not executory limitation if G's a third party?
Because it follows a life estate. That's the key, right? When you start off with a life estate, you have remainder after that. That's what I've been talking about for 3 weeks. With executory interest, you start off with a fee simple subject executory. Just look at the difference, right? With all of our executory interest examples, you start with fee simple, comma, executory interest. Today we're doing all life estate, comma, remainder. That's the difference. The fact that it uses but if is not the end of the story. You have to look at what's going on. You have to go front, back, back, front. There's a lot of things you have to think about. Questions on this? Dylan?
Yeah, so you can have multiple future interests at once.
You can. You can. You're not gonna like it, but you can. Is that? Let me check. I think this is for the class on Thursday. I don't remember. I'm covering today one day at a time. What's that? I heard that. I have very good hearing. My voice won't be good, but I have very good hearing. All right, what else? I got more stuff if you're ready to move on. Ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. All right. So the next addition to this, right? We've discussed you have vested remainders and you have contingent remainders. Okay? There is a certain type of vested remainders. There are two types, okay? Okay. There's the regular vested remainder and what's called the vested remainder that's subject to open. What the hell is that, right, Josh? Why are you torturing us with these phrases? Okay? So if you go to page 320, example number 4, please. And I think, I think you're up next. Want to read it, please, on page 320, example number 4?
Conveys to A for life, to A's children and their heirs. A has one child, B. The remainder is vested in B, subject to open to let in later born children.
Okay.
Keep going?
Yeah, keep going, yeah.
B's exact share cannot be known until A dies. If A has no children at the time of the conveyance, the remainder is contingent because no taker is concerned.
Okay, very good, thank you. Right? So look at this. It says, O conveys to A for life, right? Then to A's children and their heirs. We know that A has one child, B. Okay? Focus on this one, right? At the time this conveyance is drafted, Assumpta, is at least one of the children ascertained?
B.
Okay. Now B is ascertained. B is ascertained. Assumpta, can there be more children born to A? Is it possible? Okay, so B might have a sister or a brother or whatever else, right? You can't know B's share until A dies. Because until A dies, we presume that A can have more children. In fact, this is a bizarre aspect of property law, a concept called the Fertile Octogenarian. This will be burned in your retina for the rest of law school. The Fertile Octogenarian. What does that mean? No matter how old you are, you're presumed capable of having children. Even in your 80s, you presume to be able to have kids. Even if you're sterile, right, we presume you can have kids. The flip side of this one's a little bit disturbing. It's called a precocious toddler. No matter how young you are, you're deemed capable of having children for purposes of property law. Trust me, it's messed up. But property law presumes everyone's capable of having children any age. Okay? Man, woman, doesn't matter. So we say that because A has one child, right, the remainder is vested. Okay, the remainder is vested. But it's vested that's subject to open to let in later born children. Okay? Now, is that Caitlin? What happens if, all of A's kids are on a family vacation and they're hit by a bus, all of them, they all die immediately. A's killed, the kids are killed, the entire family's killed at once, right? It's tragic. What happens to the Blackacre? No, okay. It says to A's children and their heirs, right? Who is certain to get it? Even if all the kids die. Okay, very good. Thank you. Even if all of the children tragically are killed in a car accident, the children's heirs can get it. Okay? So this is still a vested remainder. At least one person is ascertained, and there's no condition precedent. Now, remember Sam and I had an example a few minutes ago. It was a little bit different. It said to A for life, then to Sam, period. Not necessarily Sam and her heirs. But this conveyance, right, suggests that even after the kids die, it goes on to the heirs. So this is not a contingent remainder. Again, even though more children can be born into it, the remainder is not contingent. It's vested. That's subject to open. Take a look at question number. Okay. Which one is this? Now, I'm sorry. The next sentence, right? What if when this conveyance is drafted, A has no kids? Right, this is important. What if when this conveyance is drafted, A has no children? Nikisha, in this situation, is anyone ascertained if A has no kids? Louder, I couldn't hear. Why is no one ascertained? Yeah. If no one is born, there are no children born at the time of the conveyance, there's no ascertained party. Therefore, the remainder, Nikisha, is invested or contingent? And number 4, the last sentence. Very good. It's contingent. So again, if a child is already born, it's vested remainder subject to open. If there's no child that's born, it's contingent. The exact same conveyance is interpreted differently depending on whether or not kids are born. Everyone see that? The same words can have a different outcome depending on what the family status is. So you need to start thinking to yourself, when these things are drafted, are there kids born? Then ask Josh, why does it make a difference? Contingent, vested, what difference does it make? The law treats these differently. I won't say much more than that. You'll learn it later. But the law treats contingent remainders differently than vested remainders. Jordan.
So if they have a transfer, there's no kids, but later they have kids, does it become?
It doesn't change. You classify it at the time it's drafted, which makes it even more complicated. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Trinity.
Is it contingent remainder subject to open or just contingent remainder?
Just contingent.
Okay.
By its very nature, it's subject to open. All right, contingent is not fixed. All right, let's do a few examples. This one's actually from the example and explanation book, which is hit or miss, but it's got some good future interest questions which you can take a look at. Let's try this one. O conveyed Blackacre to A for life, then to B and her heirs, if B marries during A's lifetime. All right, Reed, let's walk through this one step at a time, okay? Your first step is to classify the future interest. What's the future interest here, Reed? I'm sorry, I said the wrong. I typed the right thing. I said the wrong thing. I meant, what's our present interest? It's on your screen. It's on the board. Right. What's the present interest here? It's not hard. Okay, very good. Right. We say that A has a life estate. All right, Reed, keep going. What's the future interest following a life estate in general? What do we call the future interest following a life estate in general? In general. The future interest following a life estate. No, you have to be automatic on this one. I'm not leaving you. What's the future interest following a life estate? We've done this 100 times today. Look at your notes. Look at your notes. Have fun. Future interest following a life estate. Should be rolling. Okay, very good. Okay, a remainder. So we know that the future interest after life estate is B as a remainder. Okay, but Ryan, we don't stop there anymore. We go further than that. Right? What's our next question, Ryan? After we ascertain that B has remainder. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, is this remainder vested or is it contingent? What are the two questions we've got to ask ourselves, Ryan? Okay, so is there an ascertained party here? B. B is ascertained, right? So check. First one's check. Good. What's the second question we ask ourselves? Is there a condition precedent here? How do we know that? Yes, and remember, condition precedent means condition beforehand. So look, A for life, comma. Then to be their heirs if B marries during A's lifetime. In other words, B has to do something during A's life. B has to get married. That is a condition precedent. If A dies and B is unmarried, B doesn't get anything. Right? Because B has a contingent remainder, right? Because there is a condition precedent. Okay? It cannot be vested. It must be contingent. How's this? Any questions on this? Yes, Mike?
Sure, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead. Does that mean that O still has the reversion?
Yeah. I think that's right. Because look what happens, right? What if B's a widower? I mean, B never gets married. It's got to go somewhere. Goes back to O. But again, it's not unfair. O wrote this conveyance knowing that if B never got married, they'll come back to him. Right? In fact, maybe O wrote this trying to encourage B to get married. Maybe he didn't maybe he didn't want to commit, maybe he want to settle down, right? But this requires him to do so. If he fails to it, doesn't get anything. Doesn't get black acre. Yeah, raise your hand, please. Thank you. No, actually, it's not. I think it's automatic because follow me here, right? If A dies and B is unmarried, what happens immediately? The funeral example is a little different because there's a gap period, right? I think with this example, if on A's death, B had not yet married, it goes back to O. Lauren?
So the only way it would have been, like you said, like the first, because I was thinking the same thing, but the only way it would have been contingent, like it would have been the reversion contingent.
Let me try this one, right?
Would it have been that?
Yeah, let me try this one, right? O convey Blackacre, yeah, for A for life, then to B and her heirs if B does not marry within 6 months of A's death. I think that's what you guys are getting at, right? I can't type. So it's like this, right? I think this is their example from Assumpta and Lauren. O conveys Blackacre to A for life, then to B and her heirs if B doesn't marry within 6 months of A's death. So there's a 6-month gap period, which I think A would have to hold on to it, subject to the contingent remainder of B.
And so it's possible for it. So that means that in both of those examples, they both have future interest at the same time.
Yes, there can be multiple future interests, that's right. Questions on this one? Take a look at example 5. Who's up? Jake, you want to read example number 5, please? Just read the first first sentence. And B is alive, right? Okay, so let's think about this one for a minute. O conveys to A for life, then to the heirs of B. Okay? Everyone has heirs. But you don't know who those heirs are until B dies. Therefore, Jake, is this a contingent or vested remainder? How come? And what can't you do? Right, you can't ascertain the heirs. You cannot ascertain the heirs until death. All right, go with me. All right, Ash, let's do number 6, example 6, please. Please read it.
O conveys today for life and to be and her heirs to survive.
Okay, stop. Okay. O conveys today for life and to be and her heirs with B survives A. What's A's interest, Ashton? What's A's interest here? A only has one interest. How do we classify it? Very good. So we know A is a life estate. And Ashton, what follows a life estate? What's the future interest? Very good. So there's a remainder in B. Is it vested or contingent? Why is it contingent? Well, don't say it's contingent. What do we call that B has to survive A? What's that called? What's the second question you have to ask yourself? Not conditional, condition, fill in the blank. What are the 2 criteria for vested remainder? Very good. Okay, what's a condition precedent, Ashton?
It means
What's the condition precedent here? Exactly. B must survive A. So this is the ultimate game, right? If on A's death, B is still alive, immediately B gets it. But, and here's the big but, it doesn't follow naturally after his death. There's a condition. Because if B dies 5 minutes before A, on A's death, B gets nothing. I said it again. You want to say, oh my God, look, the second A dies, it goes to B. That could be true. It might not be true. It depends who lives longer. So there is here a condition precedent. Everyone with me? Everyone with me? All right, let's do questions, page 321. There are a bunch of questions. I'll wrap up class with these. I'll do just a couple of them. All right, Esther, you want to read number 1 for me, please? Yeah, keep going, next sentence. Okay, so what do we do here? Okay, tell me, what's the present interest here? Very good. What comes after life estate? Very good. Now, Esther, is this a vested or a contingent remainder? Okay, B's ascertained, no problem there, right? Is there a condition precedent? Why not? Is there any condition that's happened? Good. This is a trick question. It's a trick question, right? In the event of A's death, sounds like a condition. It's not. When A dies, right? If I struck out this entire passage, and I wrote day for life, then to be in his heirs, the exact same thing. It's trying to trick you, right? In the event of B's death, just means that B dies or A dies. There's no condition at all. So a little bit of a trick question. All right. Everyone okay with that one? All right, Melissa. Sorry?
You want me to repeat it?
Just read the second the second part of the question. If B, here, read this part.
While A is still alive, the later conveys the fact that A
I think it'd still be a remainder actually, because it was given to a third party and they came back to them. A little tricky, but don't worry about that one. Actually, I'll skip that one. I always figure which one's like skipping because some of them are more complicated than they're worth. Okay, all right. Try number 2, Melissa. A little bit easier. All right. This I think is what Andrew was asking about earlier, where you can stack remainders. So walk through this one, right? Melissa, one step at a time. Very good. Why is it vested? Okay, and then what happens? What about C's interest? Yeah. So here you have 2 vested remainders, one after the other. Melissa's right. B has vested remainder, and then C has vested remainder. Okay. The only difference is B has a vested remainder in life estate, and C has a vested remainder in Melissa. A vested remainder in and her heirs. What C is future interest called? Vested remainder in. Let me just again. Both B and C have vested remainders, but they're different. B has a vested remainder in life estate, and C has a vested remainder in, yes. C has a vested remainder in fee simple, because once A's dead, and once B's dead, C has it free and clear. Pretty simple. All right. All right, let's do number 4, and we'll stop there. Okay. Let's skip 3. Roxy, you want to read number 4 for me, please?
A's oldest child, B, is 17. Is the remainder vested or contingent?
Okay, so this is a little bit trickier, right? From O to A for life, and after A's life, to A's children reach the age of 21. A's oldest child, B, is 17. All right, so A is a life estate, that's easy. How do we characterize B's interest, Roxy?
B's interest is remainder, contingent.
Why is it? That's right. Why is it contingent?
Because it's contingent upon the 30-21.
Exactly. Right. B's interest is contingent. Okay. Because he has to live another 4 years. He might die tomorrow. So there's a condition precedent to keep living till 21. Okay. Now the next sentence, it says B reaches 21. Okay. At that point, Natalia, when B reaches the age of 21, what happens to its remainder? It becomes vested. So what I want you to follow is this. It can start off as contingent, but if B reaches 21, there's no more condition precedent. It becomes a vested remainder. Yeah.
Is this an example of the vested subject to open?
If you notice, I didn't say A's children. I'm asking about B in particular. Right? But I'm going to do your question next, right? Let's just focus on B. B's remainder is vested in 21. So B's like, yay, I'm 21, I get a little Blackacre, right? Natalia, what happens if another sibling comes along, lives 21 years? What happened to B's interests? What does he have to do with his brother and sister? Share it, yeah. So actually, B's interest is subject to partial divestment, right? It can be cut short. Now, I think he asked a question. Ryan asked a question. It's a good one, right? Is this subject to open, right? So originally it was contingent remainder, right? But what if there was already a child that was 21 at the time this conveyance was drafted? The class of children we vested subject to open, because there could be more. But the key is there has to be a kid that's 21 when the conveyance is drafted. Because here the child was not 21, it was contingent as a class.
So when you do subject, or vested remainder subject to open, that also
Yeah. But you can have a contingent remainder that becomes vested if you turn 21 in this case. All right, let me try to summarize as best as I can. There's a lot we covered today. This is what I'm telling you. This chart doesn't get you. It doesn't get you very far. We study these fee simple subject to executor limitation. To determine if it's a fee simple subject to executor limitation, you need to jump to the future interest and determine, is the future interest cutting short a present interest? The answer is yes. It's executory interest. Therefore, the present is a fee simple subject to executory interest. It's the first thing we studied today. The second thing we studied today is the remainders. And there are two kinds of remainders, vested and contingent. To be vested, the parties be ascertained, and there cannot be a condition precedent. Indeed, you have a vested subject to open if other children can come into the class, usually how it happens. But if the party is not ascertained, or if there's a condition precedent, you have a remainder that's contingent. My voice is about to go. Any other questions? If anything else, come on up. Thank you so much.